Donald Trump is a really bad liar, which sounds weird saying considering lying is all he does, but the only reason he can get away with it is because those who should be holding him accountable don't. They often cower because Donald Trump uses the power of the state to intimidate the media, or the mainstream press just fails to do their job. But there are few instances in which Donald Trump's lies get called out to his face, and today was one of them, because as Trump met with the Australian Prime Minister, he took a couple of questions. One in particular from a journalist who pointed out his lie about his failure to end the war in Ukraine, and he completely lost it. We are going to get into that incredibly brave question and response to Trump, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into that moment in which Trump was shouted down and shut up by a reporter, I want to start with the rambling idiocy of him talking about China.
Mr. President, your Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, in his Shangri-La speech in, I think it was May, warned about the potential likelihood or threat of President Xi ordering an invasion of Taiwan. 2027 is also the year that Fleet Base West is supposed to start rotating those US and UK submarines. Do you see AUKUS as a deterrent for China in the Indo-Pacific?
Yeah, I do. I think it is, but I don't think we're going to need it. I think we'll be just fine with China. China doesn't want to do that. First of all, the United States is the strongest military power in the world by far. It's not even close. Not even close. We have the best equipment. We have the best of everything, and nobody's going to mess with that. And I don't see that at all with President Xi. I think we're going to get along very well as it pertains to Taiwan and others. Now, that doesn't mean it's not the apple of his eye, because probably it is. But I don't see anything happening. We have a very good trade relationship. We're going to have a very good, I think, when we leave South Korea, could be wrong, but I think we'll end up with a very strong trade deal. Both of us will be happy. No, I don't see that happening, no.
Does anyone in any way feel safe at all? Donald Trump is consistently displaying to us that he has no idea what he's talking about and doesn't really care. Tariffs, as we know, are not some long-term economic policy. If Donald Trump wanted to get what he calls trade deals done, they would be tranches of structured agreements on specific industries that you wanted to see growth, or a suppressant of other trade coming in. Like, there would be an actual full and thought out policy, but it's not. A tariff is not a trade deal that is Donald Trump pretending to look smart and pretending to look tough, which he is neither of those things. Donald Trump has admitted several times that he just likes to sign his name on the piece of paper, and it's the same thing with foreign policy. Donald Trump has no idea what's going on. Donald Trump doesn't care to know what's going on. Donald Trump just wants world leaders to pretend like they respect him. It's part of the reason he's invoked these tariffs, aside from the obvious insider trading. But Donald Trump spoke to the use of his tariffs, or the misuse, and really one of the dumbest rambling remarks yet, but it led perfectly into him getting called out.
Yeah, well, the tariffs have been amazing because, tariffs have been really a reason that I was able to settle almost all of the, I've settled 8 wars in 8 months. Not bad. I have one more to go. It's Russia, Ukraine, and I think we'll get there, but it's turned out to be nasty because you have 2 leaders that truly hate each other, You can't have it all, right? They hate each other beyond all else. And it makes it actually a little bit difficult. But we try, of the 8 deals, I would say because of tariffs, 4 or 5 of them were settled. It's an amazing thing, the power of tariffs in terms of our country. But tariffs have always been used against us. We never use them against anywhere else. And now you have a president that for national security reasons and other reasons is using them. And we've become a very rich nation again, and a very secure nation again, but we've also become a nation that used that power of tariffs and the power of trade to settle 5 of the 8 wars that I said. I settled 8. I'm very proud of that.
So we've ended all the wars, apparently. I don't remember any of the wars being ended necessarily by Trump. You're going to have to refresh my memory there. I do know that you're going to war with apparently Venezuela is on the table. Chicago, you've already said. We're doing New York next. San Francisco is up. We're going to war in D.C. So you've started a lot of wars. It seems like it's at home, and you're sharing either images of you dropping napalm on major blue cities or dropping feces on New York City. But I don't know exactly what wars Donald Trump has solved. And he's told us that he doesn't actually understand these wars. He's naming countries that weren't in conflict, saying that tariffs solved everything. And Donald Trump was checked on that by an Australian reporter who called out his lies.
The First Lady has done such an amazing job on the Ukrainian children who were abducted by Russia. Would you support Senator Lindsey Graham's bill to declare Russia a terrorist state? And you have within your power, you're the most powerful man on earth. Why don't you just enable Ukraine to finish this war tomorrow?
Well, if you knew anything about what you were talking about, you'd be able. You do. I don't think you do. Really, I don't think you do because it's a little more complicated than that. But it sounds easy. We're in the process of trying to make a deal. If we make a deal, that's great. If we don't make a deal, it'll be a lot of people are going to be paying a big price.
President Trump, so a question to both of you, if you don't.
That is how you do it. That is how everyone should do it. Donald Trump says, well, you don't know what you're talking about. And the reporter said, yeah, I do. And that's how I know you're an idiot. And I think it is smart to also play on Trump's ego if you are a reporter or if you're anyone pushing him to get something done, to say, you're the most powerful person in the world. Why don't you act like it? Why can't you realize that power? When it's targeting women, people of color, trans people, Donald Trump is happy to use the power of the state. When it is suppressing dissent, going after journalists just like that, Donald Trump is happy to act as if he is the most powerful person in the world. But as I talked about yesterday in some videos with our good friends at the Bulwark, and I'm doing collabs with them now, you should check it out. I'll definitely link some of them. But Donald Trump decides kind of when he wants to be president. Republicans do this for Trump as well. It's kind of built in to their moving the goalposts excuse. It's, when Trump says something outlandish, it's like, oh, well, he was joking around. But, when he says that we're going to go into Chicago, that carries the weight of the law because dear leader Trump says it. It's very fluid, but also very structured when Donald Trump wants accountability or people to act like he is the president, which he is. And he does have that power, and he can't use it. And it's because he is a joke on the world stage. The insecurity coming out of Donald Trump's administration has put us all and our allies into so much danger. Ukraine is a great example. If Donald Trump was actually a strong leader, he would have been able to get a peace deal done. Donald Trump is not. He continues to kowtow to Putin. Putin called him earlier this week, or last week, I guess it was, and sweet-talked him back into supporting Russia and literally pushing the talking points about how they'd seized so much territory and they're inevitably going to have to get something and they're winning this war. But no, Donald Trump is not a strong person. No one is in this administration. And you can especially look at that when it has to deal with actually banging out agreements and presenting America as a nation of strength. Pete Hegseth might be the most insecure person in this administration, which is crazy considering how much Botox Kristi Noem puts in her face and how little Donald Trump's parents ever hugged or loved him. But Pete is a great example of this. What is happening at the Pentagon, stripping press credentials away from people simply reporting on the failure that is Hegseth's time as Secretary of Defense, is insane. But what's more insane to me is that it took Newsmax and Fox saying no for there to be real reporting on this. I did not see the mainstream press talking about how Hegseth wanted to take away credentials until Fox stood up to him. We do not need the right to dictate what is and is not an emergency. I felt this way when Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I was happy to see it, was spouting off against Trump. The mainstream media said, wow, oh my gosh, Marjorie Taylor Greene is speaking out, the shutdown. It must be a big deal. Republicans are talking about Epstein. It must be a big deal. Republicans are saying that people are going to lose their health care. It must be a big deal. Why do we play on their terms? I really don't get it. And it is the fault of the mainstream press, who are now seeing their ability to do their job become harder and harder because they do not do their job. And I don't want to have to tell them to do their job. I started this channel because they don't do their job. We are in this community together because they have failed to do so. They have failed to protect you. They have failed to seek out the truth, except for that reporter who asked Trump about Ukraine and called him a big, big dummy. But we shouldn't have to do this. But it seems like that is the case. The only people I've really seen speak about this are Rachel Maddow and Nicole Wallace right here.
In this case, we've got all of those Pentagon reporters with their news organizations behind them standing up and saying no. We are not stenographers. We are not going to work under strictures where we are only allowed to write down what you tell us we can write down. That's not journalism, and we're not going to do it under those terms. We'll do it some other way. We'll give up these bureaus, these physical bureaus inside the Pentagon, sure, and that is a compromise, absolutely. We will find other ways to do this work, because you keeping us here while we only write what you want and approve us of saying would have us working here as your lackeys rather than working as journalists, and we're journalists. I find this to be incredibly inspiring, and I don't know how it's going to result, or how it's going to resolve in terms of what happens with that press space inside the Pentagon. But when journalists and the news organizations that employ them stand up like this, particularly ones on the right, it is a good sign about the self-respect and vision and values and bravery of people who are really important to the health of our democracy. I think this is a really good sign.
Do you think it's happening because it's the military, or do you think it's happening because there's something different about the Pentagon press corps?
I think it might be happening because news organizations have realized that it's really embarrassing to cave to Trump. I think that, that we haven't necessarily, I think the Trump administration, people who are working for him, know what they're trying to do. I think they are trying to impose one-party permanent rule, getting rid of American democracy and for all intents and purposes, and having an authoritarian takeover of the country. Like, I think they know what they're doing. So are they susceptible to changing their minds because of people protesting and calling them out for what they're doing? Maybe not at this point, although I think people are going to keep chipping away at it. But every other institution in the country that is public-facing in particular, whether it is a company, whether it is a news organization, whether it is a professional organization of every kind, I think people have now gotten the message that it is a humiliation, and it is something that you cannot live down until you change course and change your mind to bend the knee to this guy. And so I don't think anybody, any self-respecting news organization knew that they could accept these sort of rules and leave their reporters in there under these Orwellian rules, and so I think that the weather is changing.
Again, it is embarrassing that there has been such little attention paid to this story, and thank you to Rachel and Nicole for highlighting it. But it is insanity. There is an attack on free speech, the very thing that MAGA claims they champion, but they only champion it when they're defending 30-year-olds who they call kids in a group chat when they're talking about loving Hitler. That's not free speech. That's being a weird bigot. And if people don't want to be friends with you because of that, it's not an imposition on your rights. It's you being a fucking loser, which everybody in MAGA is. And we're going to continue to call them out. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And if you want to support the show another way, you can click below in the top comment or right here to subscribe to my Substack. Being a free or paid subscriber, one of the best ways to support the show. Keep on fighting. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.